Welcome to the Yinning at Life podcast. I'm your host, Kimberley Roberts of SolefulYin, and I am a yin yoga teacher and reflexology therapist and mindset shifter. And in today's episode, I want to talk about socks. I know you're probably thinking, what? Socks? Like, how interesting is this going to be? Well, I have got a plot twist for you that you are going to want to stick around and listen to, because we're not really talking about socks. We're actually going to talk something a little bit more important, and that is your kidneys, okay? And all things related to Chinese medicine. So stick around. Feel free to grab like a beverage of your choice, maybe wrap yourself up in a blankie, have yourself nice and cozy. And if at the end of this episode you feel, I don't know, enlightened, insightful in some way, or educated, please leave me a comment and let me know. If there's something that you want me to riff on, absolutely leave a comment, let me know so that I can put that up as an episode on the podcast. I am here to serve you in the best ways. So let's talk about socks. So actually right now, as I'm recording this, it's just after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in Chinese medicine, this is actually the perfect time for me to be recording this podcast. Absolutely the best time. Okay, so I regressed there for a hot second because I'm just really excited about this. So in Chinese medicine, there are what we call energetic meridian channels. And these channels, they run through the connective tissue in the fascia layers in your body, and they link up to specific organs. So these energetic meridian channels, I have tons of other episodes about this, so you can always go and dive in deep into those. But to let you know, these channels are kind of like these little garden hoses that run through the connective tissue, and they link up into your organs. And our organs is where we hold emotions, right? Think of them like little suitcases. And each energetic meridian channel has a time of the day when it is most active and when it's moving through the energy of the body. So right now, between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. is bladder meridian time, okay? Bladder goes with the kidney, which is from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So during this 4-hour bulk time, because in Chinese medicine, there's always a yin and a yang to everything, right? So we have the bladder, which is the yang organ, and we have the kidneys, which is the yin organ, and they work together. Now, what does that have to do with a pair of socks? A lot. So this is where it's going to start to get interesting. So on the soles of your feet, there is a pressure point right in the center where the arch and the ball of the feet meet, okay? So right in that center there is, actually, you know what? I'll show you. If you're watching this, absolutely, you can see. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're on Spotify, you can switch right now to watch it so that you could see, okay? So anyways, I'm sticking my foot up, and of course, I'm wearing a pair of socks. So right in the center here is where this kidney 1 point is. And this kidney 1 acupressure point runs all the way up through your body into your kidneys. Now, what do you think happens when you are walking around on cold, hard flooring and your bare feet? Think about that for like a hot second while I take a sip of water. Anybody got any guesses? You could always leave a comment and let me know. But of course, I'm going to tell you. The cold energy from the floor radiates up through that point, up the back of your body, right into your kidneys. And I'll tell you, in Chinese medicine, your kidneys are considered the root of life. They are your vitality. They are your longevity. They are where we house our essence, or also known as our jing, okay? And everybody has a predetermined amount of jing that they're born with. Now, you can do a whole lot to deplete that jing real fast by burning yourself out and, candles at both ends, and it's just like running around like a hamster on a wheel and you got too much going on. You can definitely deplete it a lot faster, which means that the quality of your life is going to be affected, right? And you're going to age a lot faster, and you might not live as long as you would like to live. Now, here's the thing. You can do a lot to preserve the gene that you have, to preserve the amount of gene that you were born with. And one of the ways is by putting your socks on when you're walking around, especially if you're on cold flooring. Now, whether you're a woman or a man doesn't make a difference, because here's the thing. In Chinese medicine, your kidneys are also interconnected with your reproductive system. Okay, so your reproductive system is a part of the kidney organ system in Chinese medicine. Now, this is where it could get really interesting for some of you people. So for the women in here, if you have a lot of reproductive issues, like maybe you're trying to get pregnant and you're just, like you've got fertility issues, you can't get pregnant. Maybe you've got like really bad menstrual cycle. Maybe you are in menopause and the hot flashes are like next level and you just can't seem to get a handle on it. Maybe you have a lot of ovarian cysts, uterine fibroids. I have a whole discussion on uterine fibroid that you can check into. It's part of my healing journey. There's a part 1, there's a part 2, and there's a part 3. And let me tell you, I talk about the uterine fibroid because I was diagnosed with a 12-centimeter one in August of 2022. So I know a lot about the reproductive stuff. And so because your reproductive system is a part of the kidney organ system, and I want you to think of your reproductive system as kind of like an incubator. Those areas, right, are supposed to be warm. So whether you're a man or a woman, your reproductive system is supposed to be nice and toasty. Now, what do you think happens when you've got all this cold energy coming up from your feet, going into your kidneys? That cold energy goes down into your reproductive system and makes it cold. Not good. You want it warm. You want to be able to put your hands on the lower part of your belly, just below your belly button, where your reproductive organs are, and you want to feel some warmth in there. If you're feeling like it's a freezer, you got to warm it up. And one of the ways that you can warm it up is by wearing your socks. Okay? And now the other thing that I want to talk about, and this is probably the controversial part we're going to talk about, is wearing socks to bed. I know. When I was first diagnosed with my uterine fibroid, my traditional Chinese medicine doctor said to me, obviously you're not wearing socks to bed. And I'm like, what? I was like, of course I'm not wearing socks to bed. Ooh, yuck. Bleh. I can't stand wearing socks to bed. And he's like, then your uterus is always going to be cold. He's like, especially if your feet are cold. Now, have you ever tried to go to bed and fall asleep when your feet are cold? Guess what happens? You don't sleep, right? Because your body is using all of its energy reserves to keep you warm, which means it's got nothing left to help you fall asleep. So, long story short, when your feet are cold and you are going to bed, put your socks on. I'll tell you something. Spoiler alert, 99% of the time, you wake up in the morning and somehow your socks have magically fallen off. Right? But I'll tell you, when you go to bed with warm feet, you will sleep a lot better. This is just one of the tips that I had in my Sleep Deep Toolkit, which you can download for free. I'll link it up in the show notes here. And it has tons of different tips, techniques, and practices like that simple one to help you sleep really well. And if you're a woman going through menopause right now, or even if you're in the perimenopausal phase, where your progesterone is starting to lower down and the estrogen is starting to rise to try to create some kind of balance. And of course, that's creating imbalances like night sweats and hot flashes and mood swings and like weight fluctuations. Then you know what? Like really making sure that you are nourishing your kidneys is so important. And this is just a simple way of nourishing your kidneys. Now, right now, like I said earlier, we are in the bladder meridian time. So Between 3 and 5, the bladder meridian channel, think of it kind of like, you know how I said the garden hose before? Think of it like a car on the Autobahn, right? It's supposed to be just cruising along and there's no traffic jams at all. Well, here's the thing. When you start to have imbalances in the kidney and bladder organ systems or in your reproductive systems, what happens is the energy that's supposed to be moving through the channels at those times starts to get congested. So right now we're in bladder time. So what happens is if you have a lot of imbalances, like if you get a lot of bladder infections or bladder irritation, or if you have difficulty going to the bathroom, if you've got a fibroid like I do in my uterus, right? Like you may start to have or notice those imbalances are actually a little bit more magnified during that time, that 2 hour block, right? So start to pay attention between 3 and 5 p.m. If your feet start to get cold, definitely put some socks on, warm them up, okay? So that you're keeping your reproductive system and your kidney organ system, and which is part of the bladder as well, you're keeping it all nice and warm and allowing the energy, the energetic meridian channels of your bladder and your kidneys to actually move through the energetic system of your body with ease, like a car on the Autobahn. It's just cruising along, right? That's what you're looking for. Just to give you some other quick examples, maybe, like between 7 and 11 a.m. So that's stomach and spleen time. So stomach time is between 7 and 9 a.m. 9 to 11 a.m. is spleen time. Now, I talk a whole lot about this meridian system and this energetic meridian clock that we have in a lot of my other episodes. So you can go and check out season 1 and you will find that linked in there. I talk extensively about that. But to get back to the stomach and the spleen. So say between 7 and 9 a.m., when really your stomach should be like growling for food. If you're like, I got no appetite at all, like I don't feel like eating, like that could be a sign of like weak or imbalanced stomach, spleen, chi, right? And chi is energy. So start to pay attention, like all of a sudden, maybe it's like I'm not feeling so good between that time. Or look at other times of the day. Another big one is between 1 and 3 a.m. So that's liver meridian time. So if you are continuously waking up between 1 and 3 a.m., there's probably something blocked in your liver meridian and in the organ itself, right? A lot of women can really attest to that this 2 hour block between 1 and 3 a.m. It's like you turn around and you look at the clock and you're like, but of course it's 1:11 or it's like 2:30. Great, I'm awake, right? So your body is always communicating with you and it's always giving you these little clues, these little downloads, these little bits of information and insight. And when it is, pay attention. So start to notice, like if during a specific time of the day, you're always getting certain symptoms coming up, then it warrants investigating, looking into that. But definitely, if we tie back into the kidney and the bladder time, right now it's like, it's 3:30-ish, right? So my feet are, even though I'm wearing socks, my feet are still a little bit cold. So I could put on a second layer of socks to warm my feet up a little bit more. And the other trick that I could also do is to heat up my uterus, right? Because I know I still have a fibroid in there, although it's shrinking, it's still there. So when I put my hand on my uterus, it's still not as warm and toasty as I would like it to be. So the other thing you can do is start to heat up your uterus. So what I love to do, there's 2 different ways that you can do this. One way is like if you've got those beanbag things that you put in your microwave and you warm them up and they're filled with rice or something, you can do that and then lay it over top of your belly. The other thing you can do, this is a more ancient traditional method, is you would take a sheet or a pan of Himalayan sea salt, and you would warm it up in the oven. So you probably put it at around 275 degrees and watch it for about 20 minutes to make sure it doesn't burn. And what you're going to do is you're going to warm up that salt, and then you're going to put the salt into like a pillowcase, for example, and then you would put the pillowcase over top of your belly. That one works really, really well because I find that the salt retains its heat a lot longer than the beanbag. But you know what? Do what you think is actually going to cause you the least amount of effort. If you're like, oh, I gotta get the salt out, then go with the beanbag and just throw it in the microwave and then put it on your belly for a good 20 minutes. As soon as the warmth starts to go away, then you either want to heat it back up again, or maybe you don't, depending on how you're feeling that day. Now, one thing you will start to notice is that if you do have a lot of imbalance with kidneys or bladder, then you could potentially, after you start warming up your uterus a lot more, you might start peeing a lot more, okay? Not necessarily a bad thing, but just to let you know that that is possible, that you might actually move more fluid through, okay? But long story short, you want to start wearing your socks. Even if you're a dude and you're like, hey, I don't have a uterus, but you know what? You still have reproductive organs. And men often can suffer from erectile dysfunction or low sperm count because their kidney organ system is compromised in some way. So yeah, put the socks on, guys. I mean, I know it's not looking so hot and cool and all the rage, but I'll tell you something. Especially if you're trying to get a woman pregnant, put your socks on. And make sure she's wearing her socks too. Might as well do both. So this is the cool part about Chinese medicine. I love how everything is so interconnected and how we have such simple techniques and tools to help us heal our body and to come back into balance. And who knew wearing a pair of socks on your feet could actually help your kidney health and preserve your vital jing or your essence, that longevity vibe that we're all on a train about, which honestly, that's going to be a completely different subject, another episode to come on the Yinning at Life podcast. So I want to talk about the longevity vibe because you know what? I don't know about you, but I'm here to live a long life. And I know I've already kind of depleted some of my vital jing. And I know once it's gone, but I can still do all the things to preserve what I do have left so that I can live a long life and a healthy life. And when I'm living a long, healthy life, then guess what? I'm doing all the things that are on my heart to help me live my best life ever. And truly, like that's what we're here for, to live out our best life, to scratch off all the things on the bucket list. So anyways, just to recap, wear your socks. When your feet are cold, put your socks on. When you're going to bed, if your feet are cold, put your socks on to make sure that your feet are warm so that you're preserving your energy and you're able to sleep better. Download my Deep Sleep Toolkit. It is free. There's a masterclass in there. There are tips, techniques, there are practices. There's breath work in there. There's reflexology points that you're going to learn to stimulate that are going to help with sleep. There's so much good stuff in this free toolkit. So it's in the show notes. You can download it there. And make sure that, you're checking every once in a while in that lower belly area how that temperature is. And if it's feeling frosty, then heat her up. Put that beanbag on, heat up your uterus, heat up your feet, and preserve the jing that you've got left. All right, so if you have any aha moments, any like, holy moly, this was like super cool, I love this kind of information, please leave a comment below and let me know. And if you have something that you want me to riff about, absolutely put that in a comment so that I can bring that up, because I can guarantee you one thing. If you're thinking about something, somebody else out there is probably thinking about it too. So you might as well just put in the comment and let me know. So thank you so much for pressing play on this episode of the Yinning at Life podcast. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Namaste.